All right, good afternoon, and thank you all for coming to our panel today. My name is Shakia Garrett. I'm the administrative coordinator here and moderating for our panel about sacred birthwork, honoring Black women's bodies, voices, and choices. And with us today, we have Chasity Millen, who is also known as, please help me make sure I do this correctly, Iya Efumranti Osunjuade. I did it. She is a certified community midwife, full-spectrum birth worker, community-centered herbalist, and small-scale grower. She is the founder of Love and Light Healing and Ori Birth and Wellness, and co-owner of the Alchemist Den, a metaphysical apothecary and wellness space in Austell, Georgia. Someone say self-care. Chasity began her journey as a doula in 2011 and later attended the Midwives College of Utah in 2015 to further her midwifery studies. Her work centers on inclusive, culturally rooted, and holistic care for birthing individuals and families. She also co-founded 2 nonprofits dedicated to ancestral wellness, food sovereignty, and equitable maternal health access in her community. Let's give it up for Chasity Millen. And then we have Tiara Calahan, or the dancing doula. She's known as the dancing doula. She's a faith-based minister, holistic birth doula, and somatic movement facilitator dedicated to transforming the way women experience pregnancy and birth. After having a natural home birth with her daughter, Serenity, she's adorable, Tiara began teaching others how to embody surrender, faith, and movement as tools for a physiological birth. Through her classes and ministry, she creates spaces for women and doulas to reconnect with their divine design, release fear, and honor birth as both a physical and spiritual journey. So let's give it up for Tiara. I'd like to thank you both for being a part of our panel. I'm so happy that we have both a doula and a midwife, because we want to know what the difference between them is. Differences are. I was fortunate to be able to moderate because this is up my alley. I'm a mother. I have 6 beautiful children. I was blessed to have easy deliveries and a lot of positive stories, but there were still questions that I would have received answers to had I spoken to a midwife or a doula versus the military, medical, cold, clinical section. So if you both could tell us what the difference is between what you do. So we'll start with midwife, because you started as a doula and then became a midwife. So tell us what a midwife is.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, so yes, I did start out as a doula and shifted into midwifery care. And the difference is midwives handle more of the physiological care. So the standard clinical practice of, your well visits, positioning of baby, nutrition, things like that, almost what your OBGYN would handle, including the catching of the baby and like right after labor and delivery, checking on the baby and making sure that the baby meets all the standards of what in-home care is, right? And then if you want to share what a doula covers.
Yes, so I would say the doula centers the mother. The doula mother is a mother. And so while we are not clinical in nature, we do not catch the baby, nor do we do any of the physiological checks and balances. But I would say we hold more of a atmospherical, energetic space. So we support with emotional support. We also provide educational information and support as well, and are just a liaison for the birthing person and their provider, whether their provider is a midwife or a doula. But I would definitely say that the doula fills in the gaps as far as supporting that birthing person in the spaces that the medical professional cannot. So yes, that is what we do.
Thank you for that. And I know there's a more general term that's being used now, birth worker.
Yes.
And is that because of the blurred lines that sometimes happen during birth processes, or is it more of how sometimes the state gets involved with things? And I kind of say that tongue-in-cheek for a reason. So I'd like you to comment on how birth worker enters what you do, if there's a line of demarcation. Go ahead.
I feel there is a line of demarcation in the sense that birth worker, I think, is like the overarching umbrella that we all fall under. We all cater to birth, or we center birth in the experience of the person, but each one has their own specialty and scope of practice. Do the scope of practice have like this gray area that some people like to cross over in and out of? Yes. I am a traditional midwife, a community-based midwife, so I know CPMs handle things differently than, say, a nurse midwife, because their level of education is different. I started out going to school for CPM, and it didn't align fully with what I wanted holistic care to look like for me and what my practice would be, so I shifted more back to the traditional side, because I feel like going back to the beginning is where we hold our power. Mm-hmm. So for me, birth worker is just that overarching umbrella that anybody, so it could be a postpartum doula, it could be a birth doula, it could be a midwife, it could be somebody that, chiropractic care in the sense, right? That's still a birth worker, right? So all of those, we all fall under that umbrella. It's just what is our scope of practice and what is our specialty underneath that umbrella.
And I also wanted to add, because you spoke about going back to our past, which is so important, because the traditional midwives, a lot of our grand and granny midwives, actually did the role of both. So the way the doula centered the birthing person in the family and helped other people in the family come together to center and support the birthing person, back in the days before the attempt to eradicate the grand midwife, that was the norm for midwives. We wouldn't just show up in a clinical space, but we were mostly showing up at the homes of these birthing people and providing love and support. And so now that the state has come in, as you mentioned, and created these titles with these scopes of practice to go under these titles, the birth keeper or the birth worker pretty much covers the whole arch of the profession. The people who are doing the holistic care, wraparound care, focusing on birth, focusing on postpartum, focusing on fertility. So it's an overarching thing, but there was a time where the one practitioner, which was the midwife for that community, served as all of those things.
So you kind of answered some of the questions first, but I want to let's go historically. Yeah. So what was the role of Black birth workers during slavery and post-emancipation, right? How were they both exploited for labor by enslavers and reversed as healers and community leaders?
Yeah, that was heavy.
Yeah, that's a deep one. So obviously we know enslaved people were forced into roles of taking care of everybody, right? Taking care of the whole entire community, be it the whole entire place where they were all enslaved on, including the people that were trafficking them, and being that mainstay, right? Wet nurses, things like that. Early 1900s, and when it started shifting and emancipation was deemed, right, and the communities started separating out, and even into sharecropping communities and things like that, there was still one person that was put in, I guess, responsible, right, for the care of the whole entire community, be it Black or white. Everybody went to them. We talked about Mudbound before, where the Mary J. Blige is like the midwife, the healer for the whole entire community, and it didn't matter what your color was. That was the role that we took on. And then that shifted even further when OBGYNs started happening here in the United States, and they saw what a community asset Black women were for the community. They started stripping that away. Well, you can only do it if I say you can, right? You have to jump through all these hoops to do it. You have to get the education that I tell you that you need to get because I need to sign off on it. Never mind that for centuries and centuries and centuries, this is what we've been doing. This was our calling. This was our birthright, right? They deemed, well, no, you can't, no. I see the power that you have. I see the magic that you have in doing this, and I'm going to try to extract it from you and keep it for myself, right? And say that you have to go through me. So unfortunately, we're still fighting that today, right? With the establishment of the CNM practice here in Georgia specifically, like it started here in Georgia.
And CNM, for those of us
is
who
a
don't
certified nurse midwife. So you get your nursing degree and then you get a specialty degree in midwifery. Though that is the only legal form of midwife here in the state of Georgia. So there's currently different policies and different bills on the table at the state level right now that we're trying to get passed with the correct language, let me put it that way, with the correct language that doesn't further eliminate traditional midwives or community-based midwives, because one of the bills that's out there is centering professional midwives, which again, you have to go through school, you have to get certified by a national registry to be able to even be deemed a proper midwife, which my father was born at home by a midwife. My father's in his 70s, right, in Missouri. There was no option for him to go to the hospital. So are you going to tell me that that woman, because she didn't go to school or she wasn't licensed, that my father is here because of her? Right. So.
Yes. And I want to make it clear, even our illustrious Grady Hospital, right? There was a time where a lot of the main hospitals in these heavily populated cities were not even allowing Black and brown people and enslaved people to birth in their hospitals. So there was a time where we actually had no choice but to deliver at homes, not because we weren't able to get to the hospitals, but because we weren't allowed to due to systematic and institutionalized racism. And so that is why we collectively took a deep breath, because it's so heavy when you really learn about the history. During slavery, before the integration of the races, when we were brought together, we, especially the people that were in rural Georgia, in rural places of the South, who didn't have access to cars and transportation because there weren't hospitals for miles and miles, and when you did get to that hospital, you were dealing with racism, and you wouldn't be served and you would be denied. And so we had no choice but to appoint our own people, which would be the community midwives. And these community midwives would travel by foot, by horse, or whatever they had to get to these houses in the neighborhood. And so this is why each community had their own midwife, because there was only so far that they could travel. And it breaks my heart that that practice has been lost, because it's done a number on our mindset. Our families are now conditioned to believe that that practice of delivering babies at home is not safe, is not sanitary. We're conditioned to believe that it's unlawful, that we could get our children taken away from us. There are so many fears. And it breaks my heart, because you think about what were people doing since the beginning of time. Hospitals have only been here for about 100 and 150 years. So it does break my heart to know that that's where we're at today. But these are midwives who risk their lives and would get harassed by police officers and KKKs just to commute to these people's homes and support these mothers. And they would oftentimes use bordering systems, because we were often living in poor communities. So a lot of those traditions have been broken, but I'm grateful that I've been able to carry that in this time where people my age are definitely going to the hospital. But yeah, they played an impactful and pivotal role.
Thank you for sharing that. So you and I, when we were talking, you brought something to light that I didn't think about. There's a term, fair birthing practices, like that's something that has to be lobbied for now and advocated for. What has been your experience as far as recognizing the need for it, and what has made you be an advocate to push for that?
For me, I moved down here from Michigan, so I've been down here for about 9 years. So it's a different, which part of Michigan? This
Over
one
here, okay.
Here, right?
For those.
And I was shocked when I got down here, because I was still in midwifery school when I transferred down here, at the just the almost like a secret society that it had to be down here. If you were not, I fortunately was with a CNM with my midwifery studies that I was practicing with. But to know that there's this whole other side down here of the traditional ones that, like, you had to be secretive, right? You had to be hidden down here. Up north, we had quite a few traditional midwives. CPM had gotten recently licensed up in Michigan, but there was still a lot of people still operating fully. Like, we have a huge Amish community up there, and they weren't rushing to get CPM. So to come down here and see, like, it flipped on its ear for me was like shell shock, one. And also then the state of Black women and the autonomy of their bodies, like being heard what their bodies were going through, or like being believed, was a stark contrast from me up in Michigan. Like, I was like, what is going on? So for me, like, I started quickly connecting with the people that wanted to not only just the autonomy of the body, but like reproductive justice. So you have Amplify Georgia, you have Sister Song, you have all these other smaller organizations, not even small organizations, they're quite large, they're across the southern states, but just getting involved in that way, going down on lobby days when these bills are being talked about, having your face seen at the state capitol on a regular basis. So we have Black Midwives Day at the state capitol, we have Black Doula Day at the state capitol, we have just Doula Day and Midwife Day at the state capitol. So showing up and constantly being in the face. Karina Edwards is a big person that's a huge proponent for making sure that across the board, all birth workers, especially traditional midwives, community-based midwives, are being heard and seen in the scope of everything and not being excluded from those spaces. But I think that's the biggest push, that we need to make sure that there's a balance for it. Like, yes, we still have to fight for like you being heard and seen in the hospital setting, but also that you have the right to choose if you wanted to have a home birth setting without feeling that like you're going to be persecuted, right, by the state or local governments, yeah, or even federal. So
that was really good. And I can add, even on a doula standpoint, we've been advocating as well. And like you, I'm not from Georgia. Originally, I'm from Seattle, Washington. And so before I came to Georgia, I didn't even know what a doula was. It wasn't until I moved here and I was working as a medical assistant at the Center for Black Women's Wellness where I began to like hear the stories of, I would be so optimistic asking the moms that were coming in for care, like, how was your birth experience? Too often did I hear the disparities. I almost died, my baby almost didn't make it, all the things, right? And so I began to realize that it's quite common and quite normal for people to have near-death experiences, traumatic experiences with themselves or with their babies when giving birth, specifically in Fulton County, which was where I was. And so it just sparked in me that this wasn't right and something else had to be done. And so what I can say is that is when I became a doula. But back in Washington, I started to do the work as well in Seattle, Washington. And in the advocacy role, going back to what you talked about or what you asked about, we have been able to like self-lobby a bill, House Bill 1881 in Washington State, where we now have Medicaid coverage for doulas in Washington. And so doulas don't have to work under a midwife or a OBGYN to claim to be a provider now in Washington State. And so now Washington State has the highest reimbursement model in the whole states. Which is interesting, being from there and living here where we haven't even began to start considering Medicaid reimbursement for doulas because the midwives are still even trying to be considered professionals in that system. So the fight is definitely a fight that must continue to be had. But the reason why it's important is because doctors and hospitals and institutions are legally getting away with giving fear-based care. They're literally legally giving out fear-based care, fear-mongering, and very systematic racism happening. And so the fact that this is happening legally is why we have to advocate to get doulas and midwives in place and protected as well.
Does anyone else feel that in there, Shanana? Because you were reminding me of things. There's a disconnect between what's natural and received as healthy versus what's sterile and received as the standard. And what you said about being believed and being heard. Now, I am grateful, like I said, I think there was a scripture that talks about being a Hebrew woman. Yes. Done. Quickly. I come in, the other women are mad at me because I am
your baby's already
here. But some of the steps of getting there, I can remember with one delivery, I wasn't believed when I said I'm in labor when I called because I sound calm. Because there's this notion that we're all supposed to act a fool, be beside ourselves and hysterical. So they didn't believe me. So when I show up and I'm saying, my water broke, oh, you just wet yourself. Ma'am, this is number 3. I kind of know the difference. Or, ma'am, I need to push. No, ma'am, and I'm 8 centimeters. Well, you can't push yet. Well, why? Because the doctor isn't here. I don't need the doctor. I just need you. So I remember one of my children literally being caught because birth is imminent because I wasn't listened to. Or water breaking, and I'm saying my water broke, having to have a dry labor because they didn't believe me. And you all can Google what those things are. I don't want to take over the conversation, but it was needed. Juxtaposed to a few months ago, I was able to attend a live birth with my best friend, a water birth at the Atlanta Birth Center.
Wow.
Being in an environment in which the focus was so much on making sure the mother was in control and had everything she needed, just a beautiful experience. And it's not weird or gross, it's natural. And just the experience she had juxtaposed to mine, I'm like, this is the way to go. So moving to another more intense topic, knowing the history of gynecology for us, knowing the experimentation on us. It is sad that we still have to advocate to be heard and believed. How do doulas and midwives help affect the mortality rate of mothers when they're going through delivery, labor and delivery?
I can share. That's really good. I can say as a doula, one of the things that I do to help advocate is, number one, I'm focusing on the mind-body connection, how to navigate that, and then once you navigate it, learn how to speak about it. Because for those of you all who don't know, when she's talking about the history of gynecology in the United States, what she was referring to is a lot of the most commonly performed medical procedures in gynecological practices and obstetric practices, like the forceps procedures and the vacuum suction and C-sections and all those different things, were first performed on the bodies of enslaved Black women without their consent or anesthesia. And so when you think about the foundation of OBGYN care, it's built off the exploitation of Black and brown women. And so as a doula, what I can do to reverse that is first by giving their voice back to them. Because the women were silenced and the women were put against the wall where they weren't able to speak up about these things. So first, I put the power back in their hands. Yes, I'm your doula, but my job isn't to advocate for you. My job is to put the power back in you so you can know how to advocate for yourself, and whoever else is gonna be there to support you, so they know how to advocate for you in the event that you cannot. And so oftentimes, sometimes you're dealing with women who don't have a support person, and then I do have to speak up and become more of an advocate, especially when I'm the only person that they have. But by the grace of God, usually most of my clients have like at least their mom or a partner or something, and so they have to also be included in the care so that they know how to speak up. But I really focus on that mind-body connection so that when sensations and the body is talking to them throughout labor, because throughout labor you're gonna be feeling all different things. And when you feel these sensations, you need to be able to like make mindful connections and call them out, and so that you can know how to respond to them. So like, for example, if you vomit during labor, I want to educate you so that you know that that's normal, that's a positive feedback mechanism, that means that we're making progress. And so that you don't freak out or whatever the case may be, but that's just a small example of how if you have the wisdom and you have the embodied knowing of yourself, not just book smarts, but you've taken time to practice mindfulness and connect with your nervous system. That is how I teach women how to then not get lost in the system, because they know how to speak up for these things and advocate for these things. So when things come up in their care, they're catching it right away because it doesn't feel good in their body, and they're no longer conditioned to silence that feeling like we usually are in medical settings. So just really putting the power back into the client's hands is how I do that.
Exactly that. And then also, I think the model of care that's offered from like a midwife standpoint versus an OBGYN, your OBGYN appointments are what, 20 minutes, 15 minutes maybe, depending on the practice. Well child checks or prenatal appointments usually are hour and a half. Because we're not just checking your vitals. We're not just checking position of baby. We're not just asking you the standard SOAP questions. How much food do you have in your cupboard, right? Where do you need more care extended for yourself? How are you really feeling this week, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, right? We dive deeper into your everyday life. Was work stressful this week? How did that play out for you, right? Did so-and-so help with the kids this week, right? Like they said they were going to. We are much more, I guess, invested in your everyday life as a midwife versus just that check in and check out. Oh, I'll see you in a month. when it gets close to the end, right? Like it's much more, again, that community-based care is I'm showing up as part of your community, and that means it's more than just I see you when I see you. It's I'm a phone call away, within reason, right?
Right.
Because we have lives as well, but
Yeah.
like it's much more like it's a closer knit community versus just your client that I see every once in a while at the office.
And I can see that being a valuable tool, because if I have an expectation that I'm going to see the same person, I have an idea of what I'm going to get. Versus in a colder setting, if the doctor you really liked was on call, if the nurse practitioner is on call, then
Right.
great. But if it's the strange person, don't ask me how I know, that is commenting more about how you look versus paying attention to your child. You said something else about giving women their voices back. I know what it feels like to the coercion into the fear mongering. If your baby doesn't do this by a certain time, we're going to induce you. Don't ask me how I know. And then you have to be an advocate for yourself, because doctors will do that. They have this thing where you're supposed to be
policy.
at this. It is
They're
policy.
stuck by policy.
And pharmaceutical bump ups.
Right.
And
Just
just the
saying.
hierarchy of how much education they have, the white coat that they come in the room with, you're already dealing with a hierarchy of power when you go into that place, which is not necessarily real. There is no one who is more powerful than you energetically. Like, that is not a thing. But for some reason, we believe that we are less than these doctors and therapists and these big names. And so sometimes we shrink when we go into these spaces.
Right, so on a positive note, more positive note, why somatic? Why the dancing? Why have you incorporated that in your practice as a doula?
If you look across the diaspora, especially with feminine and women, dancing has been a tool that we have used for our healing and for ceremonial rites of passage for many, 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 many years. And honestly, coming from Seattle, I didn't know much about my Black history. Deep Black history is not something that I was heavily engulfed in coming from Seattle, but it's just something that I felt that when I danced, I experienced joy. When I danced, I experienced breakthrough. I also released a lot of things through dancing and movement. I can remember a lot of the most traumatic experiences I've had. After having them, I went to dance, and it helped me. And so even when I had painful periods, even when, like, growing up as a girl, having painful periods, these are things that when I went to go move and dance on my dance team and go to practice, after practice, I would feel better. And so I was pulling from my personal experiences. No elder sat me down and said, baby, if you move them hips, no elder sat me down and said anything. This was just something I found for myself that was very helpful. And so it was a passion of mine. And then when I met the passion of birthwork, I put the two passions together. And I realized that, wow, when women are moving and dancing, they release hormones called endorphins, which is like things that help you feel good. Also, I learned that stretching and moving helps with mobility and flexibility. And with me wanting to help women get to a physiological natural labor, you need mobility and flexibility. A lot of people think that when I'm pregnant, I'm handicapped, I'm not supposed to be moving and doing all the things, but during pregnancy, you're probably the strongest you'll ever be, and also the most limber because of the relactin that is released, which is like a flexible hormone. But nonetheless, dancing and movement, when you really get into the physiology of birth, when you know how to move your hips in certain ways, you know how to navigate like unmedicated natural birth. You will begin to feel, oh, I need to position this way, or I need to turn on my side. And these are things that I want to teach women throughout pregnancy, so that when it comes to birth, they know how to navigate it with a sense of self-knowing. Labor is called labor because it requires work. And so if you have to work for who knows how many hours, why not let's get some rhythm in there, let's get some music in there, and let's make this enjoyable. Let's make this an experience that we can navigate and cope through movement. Movement has been something that has helped me cope with a lot of things, and so that's why I provide it to my clients.
Thank you for that. What has been the highlight of your path, the things that you've enjoyed the most about being a midwife?
All of it. I think the biggest thing for me is the community aspect that I've already spoken on. Knowing that, like, you get to see somebody at their most vulnerable and they became comfortable with you, being able to be that vulnerable with you. It's not even to make it light, it's one of the most spiritual experiences you'll ever go through, right? As a person, as a birthing person, and I feel honored to be able to show up and be a part of that experience with you, right? And I'm not center in it at all. I'm just there to support you through it, however that needs to look for yourself. Like you said, helping people remember where their voice is, right? You're not voiceless. You just need somebody to stand there and be like, I hear you. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a whisper, right? Or if it's a wail, right. I still hear you. And I'll hold space for that. So I think for me, like, the joy of it all is that aspect of the community, but then also the community of midwives that I've grown to be a part of here in Georgia. Like, up north, it's very white dominant. And finding a preceptor when I was a student that was black was non-existent. I didn't have a black preceptor until I came down here. And even me finding my own voice as a birth worker, as a midwife, I owe that to the midwife I studied under, Angelina Ruffin. If you've never heard of her, she's Touch of Oshun Midwifery. She's an amazing midwife, and she's from Michigan originally as well, so I feel like we had that connection, but she literally helped me find my own voice as a midwife and, like, pull it out of me, like, no, you're not staying in the back, you're not staying in the kitchen. I don't know who taught you before, right, or who was your teacher before, but you're up here. You're up here. So being able to, again, the community of being a part of that community to be of support, but then also being supported by all these great midwives as well, helped me step out of my own personal shell. So I think that's my greatest joy, my greatest peace around it all. And knowing that, like, you're just spreading love by being able to be in community with other people. And however that needs to show up, right? If I'm at your birth, or if I'm dropping off fresh food from my garden at your house, or mixing up a tincture for you, or encapsulating your placenta for you, whatever I need to do to show up for you, to show that that type of love as a community member, that's the joy.
Meeting them where they are. What part of Michigan is your preceptor from?
She's from Detroit. She's from the other side.
Okay. Just want to make sure we get that.
Originally.
Thank you for sharing that. So with where you are now in your paths, what do you see the most immediate need for, whether it be the community's awareness and help, or how can the community help you, and is it more awareness that they need in order to help grow what you're doing?
I think understanding the policies that are out there right now when it comes to midwives and their practices, and not allowing the erasure of traditional or community-based midwives. I do want all midwives to feel like they are seen and heard here in the state of Georgia. I don't want one to be over the other, right? Like, there isn't some hierarchy in it, that we're done with the hierarchies. I want people to be able to choose the type of care that they want, right? And have the options to that care without the midwives, any midwife, wherever you stand in that line, that you can be front and center and be like, I'm here for you, and not be afraid. Right, because I feel like each type of midwife, CNMs, they have to practice with an OBGYN, right? They have to have somebody else sign off on them here in the state of Georgia. Like, they're not even free and clear completely for themselves. Letting them have that autonomy. CPMs, there's no licensing here in the state of Georgia for CPMs. So they feel like they don't even have a voice in it, let alone traditional and community-based midwives. Like, we're just zipping around in between in the dark, right, in the shadows. And I don't want that to happen. So show up, like, right? Follow the midwives on social media, especially the ones that are advocating and making sure that the policies get written in a way that it isn't exclusionary of all types of midwives. Show up for the doulas, because they deserve to be reimbursed as well, right? Georgia just overlooked this huge amount of money that they could have taken from the federal government and put that right as an allotment to reimburse midwives here in the state of Georgia. If we had more people knowing about that and knowledgeable about that and showing up and writing to your legislators, writing to your senators, like, look, these are the bills. Why is this not available? Show up to the different organizations that are pushing forward for reproductive justice and reproductive rights, right? Don't just show up for the candlelight vigils, but show up at the meetings. We need it across the board. Make the calls that you can. Be of the resource that you can. Do a little bit of research and say, okay, I can't do this, but I can do this. I can call 2 people. I can email 10 people. I know how to cut and paste, right? Just try to jump in wherever you can when it comes to, because it doesn't just affect me. If I can't provide care, right? How many people then are forced into in a position that they don't want to be into, right? Not everybody wants to birth in a hospital.
Right.
Some people do, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not against, however you need to birth, but I want you to be empowered. I want you to know what you can from that and have that support. If it is a doula in a hospital setting, if it's a doula in a home birth setting, right? So that's my biggest ask of the community. Make sure that we don't get erased. Make sure that we don't get held down and bound even more by what the lack of law or the laws that are here in the state of Georgia, because I feel a lot of the erasure started here.
Okay.
Right? We're like last in the United States, right, for infant mortality and maternal mortality. Yes. The worst in the whole entire United States. And there's like this whole entire like row of us down here, state back to back. The care has to be accessible, and it can't be accessible if the people that want to show up can't show up.
That's sobering. Yes. I feel kind of like you are like the bumblebees of gynecology for women's care. Like we need you. We lose bees, we lose food.
Right.
Right. That's what that brought to my mind.
So good.
I will happily be the bumblebee.
Right? Because no one really thinks about bumblebees on a regular basis. But when you bring them up, there's so much that they do.
Right.
There's so much that we would lose if we didn't have them.
Exactly.
So if I've never been pregnant, but I'm pregnant now, and I found a midwife and doula pair. I found the 2 of you. Walk me through a perfect situation of what to expect if I came to your birthing center, or if you came to let's say you came to my home. I just want a natural birth at home. What does that look like? And we're talking everything going the way that we want it to go.
Yeah.
What would that look like? Hi, I'm in labor, come on in.
Well, first, before you got into labor, I'd hope you'd contact us well in advance so we could have those proper care visits leading up to the birth. I think for us, well, for me, the protocol is doula goes in first, right? Your spiritual and mental, emotional support, even physiological support comes in first. Not that a midwife doesn't give physiological care, obviously we do. Even some of us do spiritual care, right? Because I'm a priestess as well, right? Like that aspect is there. But it's not just showing up at the birth. It's always
so I'll start over.
Before, right?
I just found out I'm pregnant.
Yes.
And I want to have the most natural, positive experience I can. So I found out about you 2. This is Team Chasity and Tiara. Might have something here. What do I expect? I'm 2 months pregnant.
You have the right to interview us.
Yes.
Us. You interview us, not the other way around. I mean, we do ask you questions, right? Like, what's your health history, things like that, what your expectations are, right? Because we're not going to fit into a mold for you, right? But we're going to let you know if that's within our scope of practice, right? So you literally are interviewing us. And I always say, interview a few. Yes. Right? You could have your favorites. You'll be like, oh, yes, I saw this midwife on TikTok. I saw this one on Instagram. I want them all, right? But interview your care team. Yes. Don't just, I'm not saying don't settle, but like interview us. Let us know that we're in alignment with where you want this to go. And we will realistically let you know if that's within our scope of practice. yes, we all want natural, physiological, safe birth at home. Sometimes things do go awry, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes your conditions may not make it feasible for a home birth or a home birth to the level that you'd expect it to be, right? There may have to be some co-care. And a realistic approach would be, if this cannot happen here, we may have to transfer here, right?
Set a realistic expectation, not to put a knock on allopathic care or the sterile cold care, but to know that we are knowledgeable enough as a team to recognize that should this happen, this is plan B.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, always.
That's good.
Always.
And that's one of the things I think, it's the myths. It's what we don't know. What do you want to have a home birth for? That's nasty. Okay. Or what if something happens? Well,
We'll transfer.
teach us, educate us. Okay, I like your team. I've met with both of you. My pregnancy is progressing well. We're getting into, let's say, third trimester now.
Yeah.
What happens
Yeah.
from the care from the beginning to, let's say, we're in our third trimester?
Yes, and so, and just to piggyback off the interview, in order for you to interview your practitioners, that requires you to know what you want and know what type of birth you want, where do you want to deliver at, or if you don't know, at least have an idea of what type of setting you want, whether it be a birth center or hospital or at home. After you know what you want and you do that interview process, and we interview each other and we're moving forward, now we're well on to the pregnancy. During that time of pregnancy, you're going to be meeting with your doula and your midwife. Your midwife's focus is going to be more clinical, making sure like levels are in normal ranges, making sure we're passing group beta strep tests if that's something that you decide to do, making sure we're passing glucose tests and things of that nature, making sure your health is optimal throughout the entire pregnancy. Now, me as a doula, what I will be doing with you, originally when I first started, I did the 2-1-2 model where I did 2 visits during pregnancy, would do the birth, and 2 visits during postpartum. Now that I've become a mom myself, I recognize that you need way more time. And so I would provide multiple visits throughout the pregnancy. And during those visits, it wouldn't just be 30 minutes or an hour. I would sit with you for like 2 to 3 hour increments. I would most likely come to your home or in a safe local space like a public library, but usually I try to do the visits either at the patient's home or if they want to come to my home. And only certain people have access to that. But nonetheless, what we're doing during those visits is we're going over your birth options. What are my options? What can I put on this birthing plan? What is a birthing plan? It's not a set in stone contract. What are my options on this birthing plan? What can I do? So we're going to be working out the birth plan. We're also going to be working out like physiological education. So what are what are things that I can do to have an optimal birth process? So we're going to be working on like pain management techniques. We're going to be talking about, do you want medical or natural pain management techniques? We're going to be talking about who is your support people there and what role do they play? Do you want to assign tasks and things to them so that they can support you? Also thinking about like in case of an emergency, what are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? In an event where we have to shift and consider C-section, how do you want to respond to that? I'm always talking about emergencies because no one truly can control birth. And so you just have to throw that caveat in there. And then we're also talking about labor positions, birthing techniques that help progress with labor, and just things that kind of help you along the process. And even we're talking about postpartum and pregnancy. So we're talking about who is supporting you around the house with household chores while you're healing. Who's going to support you in your healing? Are you interested in traditional healing remedies like herbal practices, womb steaming, belly binding, baby wearing? Are you interested into the womb massages and things of that nature? Again, we're going to look all those things up for time's sake. But just really like giving the birthing person a space to really envision in an ideal perfect world, what would I want? And what is the work that I need to do right now to get there? And then I would sit with you and support you in doing that work so that you can try to create the most optimal experience.
That's such a significant difference than just the cold calculated. The plan is you make it on time to the hospital.
Right.
The plan is your doctor is on call.
Right.
Don't have to call him because he's playing golf.
Right.
And the plan is you come in ready to deliver. Because I've seen the where people come in, they're in active labor and it slows down and people take it for granted and they'll forget about someone back there. But you're attentive. So the point is to be attentive throughout the entire journey.
Right.
Okay, fast forward. My doorbell rings because now birth is imminent. We've discussed my plan. My home is set up the way that I want it to be. You all come in. I'm probably 5 centimeters now, so my smile is fading, but I'm glad to see you. What's happening now? Versus I'm at the hospital, 5 centimeters. They're checking maybe every hour. I'm uncomfortable. They can't give me this or they can't give me that, or they want to induce me. What am I going to experience now?
So during the pregnancy, I'm heavy on educating what to expect during labor, especially those early stages, those latent stages of labor, because too often birthing people go to the hospitals too early and they're either getting sent home, which is super discouraging because you're like, you thought it was time, or they are just panicking because they don't know what to expect and don't know what to do. And so in the event that a birthing person is starting labor, you of course want to gather information. And so I think the doula and the midwife will both assess the situation before responding. So we're going to want to figure out, do you have a consistent contraction pattern? What is that pattern like? How consistent is that? Like for me as a doula, I always ask about the contraction pattern because that's a huge indicator of where we're at. Right? As a doula, you have to have a little bit of midwifery education. Even though you're not showing up as a midwife, it's important to know it so that you can kind of know how to respond in those situations. But we're going to check the contraction pattern. And now, usually, even if you're having your baby at the hospital, you can still labor at home for the majority of your labor and get to the hospital right in time. But the key is navigating when is the right time. And so there are things that come into place. But doulas can show up, whether you're having your baby at home or at the hospital. We can show up before you go to the hospital to help you labor at home, to kill time, and to progress before you go. We can also be there early labor in the beginning. But usually when you become a seasoned doula, what you're doing is you're helping the client learn how to navigate that early part for themselves. So they're doing hip swaying. They're probably playing music in the background. They're probably eating a meal, and they're probably, in your early labor phase, you can still communicate clearly and effectively. You can still hear clearly and effectively, joke, laugh, and talk, but your brain waves slow down and kind of shift as you go deeper into labor. You kind of slow down. You become less coherent. You're not as responsive. You're not as alert, and you're kind of going more inward in your psyche. And during this time, when you see a birthing person kind of go inward in their psyche, this is when you have to kind of pay attention because the vocalizations will change. And so when you see all these shifts happening, as the midwife and as the doula, like you have to pay attention to those things and respond effectively. And so as these things happen, you pretty much want to support the birthing person as much as you can. As a doula, I'm supporting and I'm providing comfort. So whatever that looks like, saying affirmations, saying scriptures, saying encouraging words, providing a cold or hot compress, maybe creating a comfortable space for you to rest, navigating through different somatic movements for you to do to help the baby descend and come down. But at a certain point, we have to know when it's time to either go to the hospital or when we're going to be transitioning into active labor at home. But you just have to really witness. Like you don't have to control or manage the experience. You just have to you just have to witness it and pay attention and observe what's going on. And then when you see what's going on, you'll be able to, it'll just kind of kick in on how to respond. But the point is to be with the person wherever they need. So if they need a touch, if they just need your presence, if they need your voice, but just as a doula, I'm just with you. I'm just here with you. And we're just rocking it out together.
Okay. And when do you take over? I'm past 5 centimeters. I love my doula. She's giving me my ice, my massage, my cold compress, but it is time.
I mean, and the management is light management, I would say, right? Like we're observers, most definitely.
Okay.
Going back to when we first walked in, mostly what we do is we get in and we settle. We go into silent mode so that we can watch and observe you, not just make you feel like you're a fish in an aquarium or anything like that, but we want that energy to be rebalanced into in the space for you, right? Like for you to get used to the additional energy that has come into the space, right? And for you to also calibrate around, like, you're not performing for us, we're just being in attendance for you, right? So you've progressed, you're past 5, you're almost there, right?
I'm no longer smiling.
And we won't force a smile out of you, right? We'll keep it light though, right? We're not there to like, okay, now it's time to push, I need you to do everything. I want you to control this. We've had the education piece. We know that there are different options that you can birth in, right, and that you can push in. What do you feel like doing right now? And you say to me, Chasity, I don't know what I want to do. Okay, well, let's try this. And then you say yes or no, right? And I honor that yes or no. Well, how about we go to hands and feet? I don't want to. Okay, but why don't, can you give me one try? And then you say no again. Okay, well, what would you like to do then? I want to stay in the water a bit longer. Okay, then stay in the water. We can stay in the water. Swim a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's really
You feel your baby's head? Reach down, touch. What are
That's
you
a
feeling,
significant
right?
difference from the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
Feel your sensations. I'm not just expecting you to like projectile out a child at me, right? And then me take all the, oh, look,
Right.
hold the baby up. This is for you. Would you like to catch the baby?
Right.
Can you feel the head? How are you feeling this? Where are you feeling this at, right? We're there for you to allow you the space to go completely out of yourself as that portal, as that person that's opening themselves up beyond this physical form to allow another person to pass through, right? But we're always there watching also, right? How much is that a little more blood than normal, right? How's their heart rate going, right? Is the heart rate increased because you're more anxious? How can we bring that down? Doula? Put some more oil in the diffuser, right?
Right.
Those type of things to introduce. We have to manage all of those things, but we're not managing you,
Right.
Yes.
right?
It brings a smile to my face because you've been there. We've
Yes.
been there. We've seen that experience. And if you've ever been in a room with someone having this natural experience, it is a far cry from what we see on film and TV and educational videos of the sterile examples, because it's such a beautiful experience when the mother has the support that she needs to just do what it's on her. No one can make this happen for her, and it's very frustrating when in that sterile environment she's being told, you got to do this, and the monitors are beeping, and bless the husband's heart, they're saying another contraction is coming. You felt that before the
Right.
machine did, like stop talking to me. So having that support is necessary. So you're saying for supporting you all, the community needs to be aware of there was an 1881 bill? They need to know about that?
So
They need to know.
The 1881 bill is actually a bill in Washington, right?
Okay.
And so this bill has already been passed. And all that is just pretty much a bill that has created Medicaid reimbursement for doulas in Washington. So it's not supporting me specifically. The bill has already been passed, but it was just me giving information about the legislative process that both doulas and midwives have to go through.
And Georgia needs something like that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
is there something in place now that's saying, hey, they're doing this in Washington, we want this here in Georgia? Is there or no?
We have the conversations.
Yeah,
Like
the-
literally, I was at a stakeholders meeting of other birth workers, mental health therapists, things like that. We were kind of navigating what the main cornerstones that we wanted to focus on are really around maternal health, right? And mental emotional health is included in that. Like, it's not just the physiological health, which obviously we need really bad here, and the support and the caretakers for that, but also understanding where can this funding be poured into these different avenues so that pregnant people feel supported on all avenues, right?
Yep.
Because postpartum depression is real. Postpartum psychosis is real. And most of it, if it's caught early enough and can be managed early enough, it won't be as of a detriment to the family in totality, right? And the birthing person. So the doula reimbursement is one major thing. Nurse midwives having the support that they have, the traditional midwives having the support that they have, and the CPMs, but then also just reproductive health in general, right? So I would make sure that you are going to Amplify Georgia and signing up to get the newsletters of all these action pieces that could take place. Go to Sister Song and find out what's going on. Or just any of your midwives that you know are out here. Karina Edwards, again, I'm gonna say her name again because I love her, and I'm giving her flowers because she deserves them. She is a hardworking, she's a midwife, she's a law student right now, because she wants to take it to the cellular level to make sure that things don't keep happening to Black women and brown women here in Georgia, especially. So I give her flowers.
Wonderful, wonderful. We're going to open up for Q&A. If anyone has any questions or comments, you can line up at this microphone or the mic stand right here. We'll get a mic for you. but don't everyone get up at once. So we could talk all day about these types of things. So let's say I never thought about being a doula before, or a midwife. What do I need to do to get started? How long would it take for me to be a doula or a midwife? So I'll let you answer that first.
It's so interesting because with both pathways, folks are going to tell you need a certification, but you really don't need a certification to do the work. To do the work, you just simply start showing up and supporting mamas and babies. But technically, there are definitely certification pathways and licensure pathways. So for doulas, there are certifications all over the United States. Mm-hmm. Some are online, some are in person, some are self-paced, and some are facilitated with an instructor. But for the most part, when choosing your certification, you just want to know what type of experience do you want to have. Are you a more kinetic, hands-on learner where you need to have an in-person type of training? Or are you someone who has a busy life, maybe you're a parent yourself and you need a self-paced online training? Or both, but just understanding what type of training you need. And culturally as well, do you want to learn traditional cultural birth techniques, or are you cool with just learning the standard so that you can have a standard care scope to work with? So just knowing what type of experience you want, choosing your certification there. But you do not need a certification to witness a birth. You do not need a certification to be in the space with another birthing person. You just have to, create that relationship, create that trust so that people will want to invite you in their spaces and then go from there. But I would definitely say just start showing up in spaces where they're having these conversations so that you can build those relationships with other doulas and midwives in your community.
To also add to yours, I did an apprenticeship model when I was a doula. So it wasn't we got a graduation certificate for it, but it was literally an apprenticeship that I did for a year and a half. Wow. So you obviously shadowed births, but then there was learning sessions in between and personal study sessions in between. Like when you're passionate about something or you're leaning into something that you really want to do, you just ingest the information. Like it becomes something that you want to learn and you want to study. So for me, that's how I did it. And I quickly, I did all my shadowing births. I did I'm the lead doula on the thing, and then we had our own agency up in Michigan. So by the time I got to midwifery school, Midwives College of Utah, I actually had all my first set of births already done because at that point I'd already attended over 20 births as a doula, right, when I shifted into wanting to be a midwife. Mm-hmm. So that set me up with that. I did do 2.5 years at Midwives College of Utah. CPM obviously was not recognized when I moved down here from Michigan to Georgia. And again, I shifted how I wanted it. I wanted to do the more traditional lens.
And CPM is?
Certified Professional Midwife.
Okay, versus the nurse midwife. CN.
And then, community-based midwife. So I do have the training and the clinical training of a CPM. Like I sat through all the college classes, all the stuff, and then did my didactic work separately, but then I shifted my practice in the way I wanted it to be because I wanted it to be that complete care, being that I am a small-scale grower, so I grow the food, I grow the herbs, making my own stuff to have at my birth, right? And understanding that, I'm going to show up with food when I bring it to you, right? I'm going to show them with meals for you. Or also get on the people that are around you, like, did you make them some meals? Are you helping them prepare for this, right? So I think that's the two different routes. So again, also midwifery has an apprenticeship that you can do right here. Most of your obviously traditional and community-based midwives are going to do an apprenticeship that will help you if you wanted to do the PEP route, it's called, to then take and sit for the national test and get certified to become licensed if you ever want to do that. But even if I sat for it now, it's not like that would do anything for me here, specifically in the state of Georgia presently. Yeah. So
thank you for that. Yeah. And you have a question?
Yes. I really don't have a question. It's actually more of a comment. Just to give gratitude, honestly, because this was awesome. I don't know how y'all feel, but I have not given birth myself, and I'm standing here in proxy because my wife actually has been considering doing doula. Personally, I didn't even know that. I mean, I guess I knew there was a difference between doula and midwife, but
Yes.
So thank you, and shout out to Center for Black Women's Wellness,
Yes.
because I volunteered there as well.
Yes.
And they had a health fair recently that was
Yes, it
dope.
was awesome. I went to that.
Dope. So just, again, thank you. And I just want to speak truth to power to just let the spirit lead me even to whatever I'm supposed to do in this space too. So thank you.
Thank
you.
you. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for showing up.
Yeah. And I just wanted to ask, when you say your wife is thinking about doing doula, is she thinking about becoming a doula or receiving doula care when you guys conceive?
So we are going to be the rich aunties. We have decided that. But funny enough, she's actually with her sister right now. My sister-in-law, we're like literally on baby watch.
Aww.
Like I said, I'm standing in proxy because literally that's where she is right now. So we are, she's thinking of being a doula, actually.
Beautiful.
So,
She's showing up.
yeah, and I like literally, I mean, my mom passed about 2 years ago. So when you say it's the most spiritual relationships, most spiritual process, like, God bless mothers. Fathers too, y'all cool, but.
Yeah, it hits different.
Yeah. But seriously, that's why I said I appreciate it, because, I mean, I still have my grandmother with me. You know, it's like,
Oh,
I'm 50
blessing.
years younger than my grandmother, 25 years younger than my mom. Like, it's something that's moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
but that's where I'm at with it.
Oh.
God bless you. Thank you
Yes.
for speaking.
Thank you.
I wish there were more people in the room.
Yes, me too.
I thought it was interesting first that that sacred birth work in this context does not include OBGYNs. I thought that was very interesting because I'm a healthcare provider. And so one of the things I kept thinking is, so does someone choose a doula, a midwife, and they got an OB, or do they just do, I mean, because one of the things that I heard you consistently say is that you are in control, meaning the birth person. And so do you find that people come to you wanting all of this at one time? Like, I want a doula, but I want a midwife, but I want the security of an OBGYN.
I think for me, I've heard people, they do want that. I think that sometimes, unless you have a really good relationship with the OBGYNs in the area, most OBGYNs do not want to deal with a midwife as well, right? They don't want to share co-care. It's one or the other for them, right? I think a lot of the bridge building between the midwives have actioned that. And not to say that there aren't OBGYNs out there that are more holistic and want that bridge to be built as well, but I think that they tend to come at it from a different lens or see it through a different lens than, you know, wanting it to be co-care. Obviously, this works. We love to have doulas at birth, right? Because again, that more hands make light work for us. Not too many hands, because then too many people that are birthing. It sounds great at first. They want everybody in the room, but I've sat at many a birth where they're like, everybody leave right now.
Yes, energetically it's a lot.
Yeah, they're just like, and then we'll be like, please, exit stage left, right? Because it's inhibiting the birth. It's slowing it down. It's stopping because they don't feel completely physically safe with all those people present. And the baby's like, I ain't coming out. What are you talking about? Who am I coming out to? That's a lot of people out there, right? So I think, to answer your question, I think the bridge building needs to happen. Again, the nurse midwife that I worked with here, she had a great relationship with a few OBGYNs at Grady, right? So if we had to transfer in, it was very seamless, especially if they were on call, right?
So are you also capable of, when someone, or feel comfortable enough in your space and who you are to say to someone, I'm not your person?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have to be able to, because it can become a detriment to them in the future. Like, if you guys aren't in alignment. So during the birth process, it's a really open portal where a lot of the things that are held deep down in our psyche and our nervous system come up to the surface during labor. And if you guys are not in alignment, or if you guys, you know, that's not your person, you're not going to know how to navigate those things. And going back to your question earlier, I think health insurance has a lot to do in the reimbursement models. When you talk about dual care, a lot of clients want the midwife care, but in a hospital setting, which is very possible. But I think reimbursement is different when there's dual care. And I think with providers, I don't know what that reimbursement looks like, but I think if you're doing dual care, I don't know if insurance companies honor that
Right.
and reimburse the OBGYN if they're participating in dual care, because there's a possibility that your midwife could deliver the baby and not the doctor, and then the doctor's probably at risk for reimbursement. So I think the money has a lot to do with it.
So that was one of my other questions. If someone engages you in their care, it's totally out of pocket
Unless you're a CNM.
unless you're a CNA.
Yes, and so organizations like Sister Song and some other organizations, there are not many, but there are some that provide funding for doulas and midwives. So like Sister Song has the Birth Justice Care Fund. So for the person who said they're on watch or something, the Birth Justice Care Fund provides about 50% of the cost for your doula or midwife. I used it and they paid for 50% of my home birth. So I only had to pay about $2,500 out of pocket. But for some people, that is a lot that is inaccessible. So there are programs, and then there's places like Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, or Center for Black Women's Wellness, where they have doulas, contracted doulas that are getting paid through the agency, and it's free to the family. So usually it's out of pocket unless you find an agency or an organization that will provide funding.
And so the next question is, what does something like this cost? Like, what's it cost?
That's a good question.
Midwifery care?
Like from start to finish.
Costs
Are
a
we
lot.
talking?
An average range would be
Yeah.
around like 3,000 to 5,000.
Yeah, and then your more seasoned midwives are probably charging like 6,000, but for sure, with my home birth, with the little baby, my midwife charged 5,000. I was able to get the Birth Justice Care Fund to pay for half. So there's that, but then you also have to count in the doula costs because you're paying for your doula as well, and that can go anywhere from 800 to 25, whatever they decide to charge, based off what they provide. So if your midwife is bringing food to the visits and cooking for you, like I had a relationship with my midwife, so maybe I just got the treatment, but if your midwife is including those things, there's usually more money that is required. Like if I'm doing your postpartum meals, and I am doing spiritual care, like closing of the bone ceremonies and things like that, they're charging more. And it's the same with the doulas. If the doula specializes in herbalism and knows how to make like postpartum teas, prenatal teas, things like that to kind of assist, then they're gonna charge more. So it's important during the consultation to ask what those charges are.
And there's packages too.
what I asked about.
People will do
That just
packages.
seems
So
very low to me.
No, it's called not being marked up for pharmaceutical pushback and back.
It is low. The care
It's
that
reasonable.
yes, it's accessible.
Right.
It's accessible.
It's
Right.
accessible. I honestly think there is no price that equates to the love and the care that we're giving to the
Right.
families.
Right.
We clap for that.
And that's why it puts us in a rock and a hard place sometimes, because living in a capitalistic society, you do have to still pay bills and pay rent and have food and lights and things while you're showing up for these families. But not all these families always have what they need to pay you. And so this is why that advocating for reimbursement models that are equitable is important, because we can't pour our heart out to you and then come home to an empty refrigerator
Right.
ourselves.
And I would do bartering. So more so as a doula, I did a lot of bartering. At least if you could cover this much of it, say you have a farm, yes, I will gladly take your gourmet mushrooms that you're growing, right? Shiitakes, and have those, right? Because I know, right, I'm gonna use them, right? Or the midwife that I worked with up north, somebody gave her a whole half a cow as part of her payment for her, her birthing package. And the midwife gladly took it because she's like, I could live off this all year, right? Like, off your farm? Of course I will. So I think that part is also like a part of it. So I would gladly use a portion of it would have to, I need gas money still, right? To get to you. I need to be able to, I have kids of my own. I need to be able to support my
Yes.
family as well, but I would always leave a portion of it. Like, if there was something that we could barter, I would leave that open as well.
Yes.
Thank
How
you.
many clients do you have at a time?
Last question for you.
I would only do, because, the pregnancy lasts for 9 months. So I guess I measure it by births. And I would only take clients with 2 due dates a month. So 2 births a month. So if I have multiple people wanting to hire me and all 5 of them have due dates in the same 2-month span, someone's not going to be able to be served by me, because I have to maintain boundaries for my own capacity, especially when you're a mother yourself and you have other people you're pouring out to, or just yourself. You got to set boundaries. So for me, it's 2 births a month.
And for myself right now, I'm not doing births right at this moment. I had to take a break because, again, as you mentioned in my bio, I am also a apothecary owner. So I have a shop that's open Wednesday through Sundays. So that takes a lot of my time. And I'm also a priestess. That takes a lot of my time. So I'm not actively attending births right now. I focus on prenatal, right? And then I do postpartum support. Because I can control that more. Like, okay, I know you just gave birth. I can handle all this, from the meals to the encapsulation to the spiritual support, the closing of the bones, things like that. So that's where I am right now. Ideally, when I go back into births, I probably would only do 1 to 2 a month, because again, the nurse midwife I worked with, we were everywhere all the time. She went from the top of the state to the bottom of the state because people were desiring her to be there. And like, I was never not on call, right? Like, I remember we had, not that this is the first time it happened to me, up north in Michigan, I had 3 births in 2 days. And then we had, I think it was 3 and 2 again down here, where it was just back to back to back. And they were overlapping.
I want to make sure they ask their question.
Yes.
And then after this, if you all will meet our guests in the lobby area for more, but I want you two to ask your question. Go ahead.
Thanks, Ellen.
Hey.
Howdy. First, both of my kids were home births by a CPM in Georgia, in Atlanta. And
Beautiful.
I think our midwife definitely kind of saved my son's life, who's raising his hands.
That's awesome.
So thinking about, as a society, how do we stop people from dying as much as they die? And the maternal mortality rate is, Georgia's the worst, but it's also like the rate is twice the rate for black women as it is for white women. And usually, like, when I'm thinking about these conversations in like the medical system, it's like, we just need to have more black doctors, because the system and the history and the environment and the policies are all part of the problem, but also just the human being that's sitting there looking at another human being. If they don't see a person, if they don't recognize pain, if they're like incapable of that, right, then that's the thing, right? So, but it sounds like when you were talking about Michigan, I felt like maybe that person, if that person is a white person and midwife with a black birthing person, that those dynamics might look a little different. And I'm wondering if that's true for you in your experience, and if so, why? Is there something about the practice, about the training, about the community, about the spirit of the work that sort of overcomes some of that racist dysfunction that like we see in like white doctors in the traditional medical system?
To be perfectly honest with you, the white midwife that I was a student under in Michigan barely had any black clients. The one black midwife that we had at the time, she was a nurse midwife in the hospital. And everybody would rush to her and want her, right? Everybody wanted her. They would sign up for a hospital birth just so they could have her, right, as their midwife. If I would have stayed, I would have been one of the first black CPMs in the state of Michigan. And that obviously hurt my heart. That obviously affected my psyche as a student, because it became a point where I felt like I was a token. Checking off boxes to look like you're open to cultural care and all the different avenues. So I honestly can't speak directly to that and why it looked different up north. I know I was definitely a doula up there for my people, right? Like, and I showed up for them and advocated for them as much as I could in that scope of practice. But midwifery care-wise, my midwife didn't take on many.
And this is why we often advocate for culturally congruent care. You don't hear this a lot in mainstream, but what it means is having a practitioner whose culture aligns with yours. So when it comes to things like birth, culturally y'all would do the same thing, so you're making similar decisions. And then two, I wanted to talk about when you said, how do we stop people from dying? The issue is bigger than just us, like we the people, right? This is a systematic, which you obviously know. And so I think when you talk about the midwives have a whole midwifery model of care that shows up in the way they practice. And of course, if you pair that model of care with a culture that is congruent with that practitioner, you get an optimal level of care, right? But I think the way we stop people from dying is putting nurse midwives, CPNs, and traditional midwives, birth doulas, all the types of doulas, and all types of OBGYNs, all at the table together, and let's have a conversation together. Where can we meet in the middle? And it's gonna take multiple conversations, but the thing is that even if you get a Black person in these institutions, the heart of the institution is still the same. And so now, because like I said before, the foundation of OBGYN care in the United States was built off the exploitation of Black and brown bodies. So now you're having to literally uproot something that was planted hundreds of years ago and having to redo the foundation of it. So it's gonna take a collective effort.
And people like you recognizing
Yes.
that it needs to be done. Okay,
Yes.
last question.
Hi there. So I was hoping to finish off your hypothetical, basically with the birthing person going through this process.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, what does the discharge process look like? Discharge, used loosely, no matter the outcome. So whether
The terminating of the relationship between
Yes,
how long does it last?
yeah, so let's say the infant is a month old. I don't know when the process stops, or the outcome is more morbid and a life has been lost, whether it's the mother's or the child's. Like, what does that process just look like in general?
So for me, the care, if it was a live birth, right, and the child, we actually continue to see the family for at least 2 visits afterwards, at least 2. If a third one needs to happen, then yes, most definitely. We don't just see you later. So after you give birth, we're there. Obviously, the placenta's delivered, everything's fine. We're there for a few hours afterwards to monitor your heart rate, to monitor the baby and everything like that. We'll go home, get a few hours of sleep. We're back there again within 24 hours. That's the first visit. Then we're there a few days after that, right? And then we're there another week after that. But then we continue to see you for up to a few months afterwards. Obviously, then you would switch into have it like a pediatrician for the child. The mother, we can do your wellness visits afterwards if you wanted to switch. If you don't have an outside OBGYN, most midwives can also do your well visits after that. But it's much more of an integrated, still see you, we're community, we're family, right? We still show up. It's not just a one and done, I'll see you in 6 weeks, right? Somebody else will handle your discharge and I'll see you in the office in 6 weeks.
Yes.
And we come to you, you don't come to us.
Yes.
In that postpartum period.
Yeah.
And then what was the second part? Oh, if it was a passing? I've only been present for one. There was one that was on the edge that we did have to transfer. It was an emergent transfer after the baby was born. But we go with you to the hospital. We then come visit you if you have to, or if you're admitted to the hospital. And then we continue to check. So it becomes co-care at that point, right? Because something emergent has happened out of that situation. And it shifts that way.
Yeah. And then I would just say from a doula standpoint, immediately after, first once you have the baby, whether you're at home or at the hospital, first thing I'm doing is making sure you're in shock, you just had a baby. So I'm making sure are you okay? Do you need a meal? What's your first meal? Has your baby latched if you plan to breastfeed? How's your psyche? I don't leave until I see that the birthing person has settled and is in a space of like comfort and I'm okay now. Like my mind has came back to myself. So while the midwife is focusing more so on the clinical things and the health, as a doula, I'm making sure energetically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, that you are grounded and you're safe and that you're okay in your body after just going through this whirlwind of an experience. And then usually with most of my clients, we become friends after, especially because I have a little one myself. So I'm very like close to the process. I just went through it myself. So we're able to connect. And so we'll follow each other on social media and we'll stay connected. But I'm showing up for multiple months after. Some clients may just get 1 or 2 postpartum visits. Some may get long-term postpartum visits. It just depends on what you request. But at those visits, I'm caring for the mother, not the baby. So the postpartum doula is not a nanny. I'm doing things, I'm mothering the mother during that time, especially if you had a more morbid experience, whether it be a loss or like a traumatic, like a C-section type experience. I'm providing support to you and teaching you how to bond with your baby, but my focus is always going to be the birthing person, and just making sure like energetically you're okay after something so transformational.
Thank you so much for answering that. Thank you for your questions. Again, if there are any other questions, you can meet with our guests outside. Last thing I want to know, how can we follow you? And then we'll close out this session.
Yeah, so you all can follow me first with my Instagram. My Instagram is @thedancingdoula_. So TheeDanting doula and then _. But I will be out here for a couple of moments, sharing my contact information for those who want to get on my email list. I'm going to be releasing a book in the early 2026 called The Art of Surrender, and this is a devotional to help women who, faith-based parents who want to navigate their birthing experience. And there's different prayers and scriptures and mindful somatic practices to help you navigate and transmute fear, anxiety, all the things that may come with your birthing journey. And not just for birthing a baby, anyone birthing a new journey, a new pathway, a new program, this book will be an activation for you. So if you want information, I'll be outside for a couple moments. You can chat with me out here.
Thank you. And Chasity.
Also on social media, you can follow The Alchemist Den. I own that, co-own that with my spouse, Ty.
The Alchemist Den?
The Alchemist Den.
Okay.
Just like the book, The Alchemist, but it's the den. And then also Love and Light Healing, I'm on there, or the Chasity Millen on any platform. You can follow me on there.
Give it up for these wonderful ladies. Thank you all so much.